2 weeks in, I was on my knees. And all of those male columnists were awful back in that era. And one guy, he said that he wished...
Oh, wait, put the car in park a moment. What did you just say? So, Fearne, tell me, the post Kids TV, Fearne, was it you?
I felt at that time, oh God, I'm so uncool.
You thought you were uncool?
Oh, but I was deeply uncool.
Fearne, no. You did a pivot, an extraordinary career pivot. Talk me through that process.
Right, I don't really want to do radio anymore, and there's no telework. No one's ringing me. I'm not getting offered anything at all. I'm just sat there feeling really insecure.
There?
You're not flavour of the month anymore.
What did that feel like? How do you overcome a thing that you feel is now something that you can no longer do?
Knowing that other people feel like you do is not to be underestimated. There's definitely going to be massive road bumps and failure and getting things wrong, and that's okay. The most important thing I've learned is that I feel like I'm really proud of you.
Hey, and welcome to my first ever episode of Begin Again. So excited. Basically, I think we get to a stage in our lives where we have a bit more freedom. You know, we can start kind of feeling a bit more like we can wear what we like and say what we like and do what we like. But sometimes we also feel a bit stuck and a bit unsure of what to do. And how do we move forwards? And how do we pivot jobs? And how do we live the best life possible? How do we follow a spiritual path? There are so many questions, and I want to bring you the answers. I want to go on this journey with you, and it starts here. So let's begin again. You turn 40 and you've talked a lot about the joy of getting to this stage of your life. And part of that is understanding you, but through that, understanding you because you understand your family.
Yeah. Yeah, without a doubt. I think I turned 43 this week, and yeah, it's great.
I mean, right?
It's great. You know,
right?
Women are constantly, and this is so obvious, I'm not saying anything new here, but talked about like aging is such a terrible thing and that, you know, we have to do so much and spend so much money to try and stop it happening. I'm only experiencing great things. And I know that there's shit, you know, there could be women in their 60s, 70s watching this going, oh, wait till you get to my age, there's pain and whatever. And I know that's all coming and there's all sorts of stages and phases. But what I'm talking about a sense of feeling like I'm in my own body and feeling like I can be me rather than a filtered version of myself or an extra version of myself because I'm not quite enough or whatever I might have thought in my 20s. I'm just going to turn up as me now, and that will differ on any given day. But actually, I really like the feeling of that comfort of just being myself, especially in this bloody job.
Well, it's relaxing.
Yes.
Isn't it?
I'm expending less energy on having to be something I'm not.
And trying to be something you're not is fucking exhausting. And I like what you said of I am enough. I was having a chat with Marissa Peer about, and I said, you know, okay, what would be the one golden nugget? And she said to write I am enough on your fridge, on your mirror, because it is probably overarchingly the biggest thing that the vast majority of people that go and see her for therapy feel that they are not enough.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't entirely nailed that one. I think hopefully...
But you've had moments.
Yeah, and I think incrementally it becomes a more natural inclination. But I think also you become more cognizant of the moments where you do feel okay. And then I don't waste 4 hours after a social encounter worrying about what I said, what I didn't say, replaying the whole conversation over in my head 8 times, wanting to call them and say, oh, you know that thing I said, I didn't mean, you know, I used to waste hours doing that, not sleeping because of it. That I'm more aware of when I'm doing that, when I'm not doing that. And I feel more confident in liking myself, even if I have said something stupid.
Warts and all.
Yeah, I'm not beating myself up because I did something that was a bit off, because we're all a bit off, and that's
Everyone
okay.
is. Yeah.
Everyone is. And I think there's less tolerance for it in our job today than ever, and that's a problem, and that stresses me out. But in my everyday life, I'm getting much better at going, oh God, just don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. You can still like yourself.
Where do you think this staying up all night and thinking about something and going over something you said comes from? Is there an event in your life where you think, oh my God, you know, I said this to someone and this happened?
Yes. I mean, I went through a whole ton of shit in my late 20s, early 30s. And I guess I've spent the last 7 years writing and talking around events, but never about them necessarily. Talking more about the feelings and the repercussions and the hangover from it. And it was a deeply challenging era that still troubles me greatly. And I'm still in therapy every damn week. And I'm very lucky to be able to do so. And I'm still triggered by the same things. I'm still unnerved by stuff in my past. But there is a lovely incremental climbing out of a big, deep ditch that I was in. And it is a bit of a wiggly line, but it's definitely a wiggly line that goes up. And I really, really felt it. We just had the Happy Place Festival in Manchester.
Yeah, I saw that.
And on the Sunday, I felt so overwhelmed, but in the best way. And I stood on the stage, thanking everyone for coming, and I could have wept my heart out. But I was so happy and I was so content and I was so comfy with feeling like it was okay to have all those people there, not sort of undeserving or like out of body experience. I thought, yeah, I've done this and this is fucking great. And I felt really happy and, but in my body, I wasn't like euphoric floating around. And it really made me think back to like, say, 13 years ago, an unrecognisable person who no way could have done that. But I've still got a long way to go. There is no way I would want to host a live TV show. I would want to host a live radio show. There is no way that I could sleep in, I don't know, a house with a bunch of people that I don't know really, really well, or even that I do know well. Sleep's a massive issue still. So I've still got these really niche things that I can't get over.
Yes.
I cannot get, and I will, but I feel, and I've got over it, like I couldn't drive on the motorway at one point for about 5 years. I didn't drive on the motorway, and I have conquered that one. So I know they're conquerable, but I can't do it at the moment. I don't know why. I really, really struggle with those three things. And then there are a few others, but they're the big ones that I don't even know where to begin. But if you said, oh, you've got to go and do a live TV show now and present it like I did for hundreds of years before, no way. There's no way.
So you were okay doing it at the beginning?
Yeah. Oh, more than okay. I was complacent. I was just like talking to you now. There was no switch that went on where I was on live TV. I was just doing it, you know, from a very young age. I did live TV from 16.
That was Disney, right?
Yeah, we did Dig It, I did Disney Club, which was pre-recorded then from 16
and
onwards.
Then Dig It, yeah.
Dig It was live. Smile was live, did with Reggie. I had a whole host of live TV shows back to back. Top of the Pops was live at one point. I didn't even feel nervous. I used to love it. I used to thrive in that environment. Now I would have a panic attack in a heartbeat. There's no way. And it's not even directly rooted to that era. There's nothing about what I was going through that is directly related to the outcome. But that's the weird thing, I think, with going through challenging stuff, that these sort of darts, these arrows end up going into all these different bits of your life that are unrelated. And you can't figure out the root of it or why, but they're there. And they become, you become sort of obsessional about them, which is the problem. So I would like to tackle those down the line. Luckily, my career isn't dependent on it these days, and I'm grateful for that. But I would like to, just for my own confidence and just to sort of overcome more areas, especially the sleep one. I would love to sort that out.
Talk me through your sleep.
My sleep is not great. I mean, I just have to have the right environment and then I can sleep. So I, for the majority of the time, sleep in the spare room because I am so obsessional about noise, whether it's my husband snoring, which many people do, or if I'm in a new environment, like I'm not a fan of hotels because I don't know if there's going to be thick enough double glazing or if doors are going to shut in corridors. If I hear like doors shutting, I know I'm screwed. Like this, I will not sleep. And before, I could sleep anywhere. I would be able to sleep on the rug there in a heartbeat. You know, I spent my life in my 20s going from different time zones. I never got jet lagged. I'd just sleep anywhere. Now, any noise and I'm on high alert, and then my heart starts racing and I can feel panic and adrenaline and these big adrenaline rushes, and then I'm just up all night. So, and that relates again to like if I was still pushing through and sort of, if I was covering for Zoe on Radio 2, I used to cover for her on Breakfast. Knowing that I had that the next day, I definitely wouldn't sleep. And I'd be catastrophizing all night, and I can do it with my eyes closed. Like I know how that show works. I love doing it when I'm there. But the level of catastrophizing would give me these big adrenaline rushes, and then I would just be awake all night. And it got to the point where, 2 weeks in, I was on my knees, and I had to say to the head of Radio 2, I love doing this show so much, and I could do it with such ease, but the night before is torture, and I can't do it to myself anymore. And it was horrible saying that. I wanted to do the job, but I couldn't do it. And I still couldn't do it now. There's no way.
So, God, this is amazing because I read you as like such a calm person, but I think you keep yourself in a calm environment.
Yeah.
In an environment that's safe for you.
Yeah.
But I still, so there was, I don't want you to talk about something you don't want to talk about. So there was something that happened that triggered, but you didn't really have anxiety at all before that.
No, I don't suppose I did. I mean, I don't think I'd ever felt.
I mean, I understand normal nerves for a live TV show, but
absolutely, like nerves. If I had a big like when I started doing Children in Need when I was in my early 20s, that was a big deal. I was in love with Sir Terry, and I still am, and that felt like there would be healthy nerves, but I would do the job just fine. I would sleep the night before.
Right,
I'd feel fine, but that has gone out the window. Maybe it's possible to go back to feeling like that, but it's so weird because say doing this, or say when I'm doing my podcast, or on a stage doing a big talk in front of thousands of people,
feel fine,
totally fine, like unbelievably calm and actually so connected to what I'm doing and engaged with it. I'm not disassociating. I'm not floating out my body. I love it. Like doing the festival this weekend, we had thousands of people. I'm doing talks on the stage. Absolutely fine with public speaking. It's something about being in other people's domain, like doing something for the BBC, doing something for ITV, where I'm not on my turf.
Yes.
I'm on their turf. Anyone could say anything to me. I've got to deliver what they want me to deliver. Do I know what that even is? How am I meant to be? It's all too confusing for my brain, and the pressure is way too much. So I have found, luckily, ways of forging a new career. I'm so grateful I've had a part 2, which is on my terms, and it's been a slow burn, but we're in a really good place now. And it works for me, and I can create projects where I feel safe and I feel comfortable, luckily. But I feel like I've got a purpose behind it now, which I maybe didn't before. Didn't necessarily have that, like, this is why I'm getting out of bed in the morning. So I've been really, really lucky that I can keep working. Because for some people, you can't, you can't do that one thing that you know how to do. So I've been able to shapeshift a little bit. But, it's been rough along the way, but it feels good now.
How long ago did you get that shift?
What, in feeling good about it?
Well, I'm feeling like from not being anxious to anxious. When did that change?
Do you know what? It's really weird because I think when I was going through all the tricky stuff, The initial reaction was a very low mood. I was in a bit of a black hole. I went on antidepressants for a bit because I just couldn't quite function in my everyday life. And it was actually a really amazing friend who had the balls, quite frankly, to say to me, you are repeating yourself every day and you're saying the same thing. And it's actually quite worrying now. So we're going to go and see someone. I would never have gone to see a doctor if she hadn't said to me, I think you need to do something about this. So that's when I went on antidepressants, only for a short while. It was maybe 6 months just to sort of get my head above the ground. And then there was a period where I was a bit flat, but I was kind of, okay. And, had very happy moments throughout this, like the birth of my children, getting married. I had some big, big highs and I really enjoyed them. There was none of the magic was taken away from those things, thank God. I think it's important to talk about that in the context of depression, because for me, it wasn't one thing. It was at the start, and then there were peaks and troughs, and there were beautiful moments in that period. And then weirdly, about 4 years after that, the panic started out of the blue. And I wonder personally if it was because I was coming out of the low mood and all of a sudden I had to go, oh, now I've got to deal with all this stuff that I can see. And before I was just fingers in ears, not looking. So then the panic kicked in and I had my first panic attack whilst driving on the motorway. I'd been fine driving forever. So then that became a trigger. But then that sort of initial bit, everything was a trigger. Traveling too fast, things being too loud, feeling out of control, could be anything. Sort of unexpected things happening, like bumping into someone that I knew could destabilise me to the point where I couldn't remember their name, but I knew them really well. And then I'd start panicking that I didn't know their name, so I couldn't say it out loud. Could be anything. So that was a period of sort of panic. And then the panic attacks are a lot less frequent now. But that might be because I don't put myself in those situations. So I don't do live telly. I don't do live radio. I try and sleep in an environment where I know I can. I'd like to change that one. So I haven't had one for, I don't know when the last time was. Months and months and months ago.
This is a lot to live with, isn't it? It's like, I put on my Instagram bio, I'm a work in progress.
Yep.
But I feel like you're a work in progress, that something's triggered this and then now you're living with it, but you're working hard, I feel like, to try and come through it. You're not like just throwing your hands up in the air and going, I give up.
No.
But like you said about the arrows, you can only sort out one problem at a time. You can't go, right, I'm going to get rid of all of my anxiety. It's like, okay, I've done the motorway driving.
Yeah.
How do you do that? Because there'll be people watching who are suffering with deep anxiety, and it's like, how do you overcome a thing that you feel is now something that you can no longer do?
Well, I did, during the pandemic, I tried EMDR. Is that the right order of letters?
I think it is.
Yes, EMDR.
Could you explain to people what that is?
So I'd heard about it from a friend who had had great success with it. And it's an eye movement or bilateral tapping therapy. So it's either you do this sequence of this therapeutic sort of sequence where your eyes are either moving, I was on a screen because it was obviously in lockdown, to the sides of a screen, or some therapists will use a stick that people follow. It could be a dot on a screen. I struggled with the eye movement, so I ended up doing this bilateral tapping. All therapists who work in this way will have a different method, but the particular therapists that I work with gave me the tools to think of when I'm at my happiest and to really visualize a place and a space where I'm really calm, really happy, really safe, really cozy. And that's a really important part of it because you have to always be able to go back to that. Then you go through the nitty gritty of reliving stuff that has felt very challenging. And that isn't fun. I dreaded doing this therapy, absolutely dreaded it. And I found it exhausting to do it. That said, I'm extremely lucky that I found someone who could do it. I'm very lucky that I could afford to pay to do it, because this is the massive systemic problem that we have on the planet, but certainly in the UK, access to these treatments, the waiting lists are long. They are not cheap. So I'm extremely fortunate that I got to try this out. And I did it on off for about 6 months. And we weren't targeting any particular problematic area. I was just going through the motions of reliving some stuff. But for some reason, it enabled me to feel like, I could drive on the motorway, I think, today. I don't know why. And, it wasn't just like I got in the car and drove. I was really shitting myself the first time. And I could feel the swell of panic, but I was able to just kind of simmer it down. And now I'm pretty okay. I'll have a bit of a when I first get on the motorway, and then I'm okay. And I sort of listen to a podcast usually to distract myself and just get out of the headspace of worrying about it. So I could probably do another course of that and see what other areas it sort of.
I mean, that's hard though, because you were saying reliving that dark stuff is like, it's going to help you in the long run, but it's very hard sometimes to do that. What other things have you found that have really helped you?
I'll tell you the one thing that's been the biggest blessing is starting Happy Place. It has been in every way, like, it's totally saved me in ways. That sounds so dramatic, but
it doesn't.
It sort of has, because I've still got a job and I literally wouldn't have had one. I don't know what I'd be kicking around going, please someone give me a TV show that I don't really give a shit about, but I'll do it. Like, that's where I'd be. And also the knowing that other people feel like you do is not to be underestimated. Like, when I first told a few of my mates, or maybe even sort of said it publicly, like, I've been having panic attacks, I had 10 people that I know really well text me and say, why haven't we been talking about, I have these? Or like one of my friends who's in her 70s went, oh my God, when I was your age, the amount of overwhelm I felt that would lead to panic. And I just saw her as this robust, amazing person. So I think that has been huge. And also finding the right few people, one of them being a therapist, but actually the majority of them being friends, that I can sit and say, I feel like this, or this thing really worries me, or I feel shame because of, and knowing they're not judging me has honestly diminished, I would say, 80% of the shame that I felt around all the feelings I had and where I was at in my head. It just wiped it out of the equation, because I thought, well, if they're not judging me, maybe this isn't all so awful. Like, maybe this is okay. And I give myself a really hard time. I'm a real perfectionist, so I expect too much of myself. But also our job and the way that we can be scrutinised, vilified, one sentence we've said can be pulled apart, and our whole personality just totally pulled apart and annihilated, I have deeply struggled with. So then I give myself even more of a hard time. Oh, I am an awful person because John from Birmingham said I am. Oh my God, I am absolutely terrible because Susan from Bognor said I am. I've absolutely clung on to those comments. I don't even know if they're real people at the end of the day. They could be bots, or they could be people that are struggling in their own lives. But I've used that as ammunition against myself. So I definitely need people that I can use as a soundboard, and hopefully do the same for them, to go, this is all fine. Like, you're all right. You're just a human bumbling through life. And so am I, for us all to have that commonality. It's a big one.
All of us really, in the days when kind of there was a free-for-all in the press, really, to just sort of, they were just having a go at everybody all the time. It was absolutely bonkers. But I forget how young you were.
Yeah.
Because I didn't get famous till I was 25. And I was on MTV. And that was quite niche. Not that many people watched MTV. It was kind of worldwide, but it was quite niche. Like, I could still go out in the street. But you went on primetime television at how old?
Well, I was on ITV at 15, yeah.
I mean, that's nuts.
Yeah.
Tell me what that was like, because effectively you spent your childhood with us.
Do you know what? Those first, I don't know, maybe 7 years were amazing. They were amazing. I had this brilliant woman in my life, well, she still is, called Maddie Darrell, who is still one of the biggest kids' TV producers out there. She created, she worked on Disney Club, she created Dig It, Smile, all those early kids' TV shows. And her level of nurturing and care for all of us in that pool, certainly me and Reggie, who, we've gone through the whole thing together, which is been an amazing thing to have him by my side for that whole thing. We've been through thick and thin together. And I was really cared for. It wasn't traumatic at all. And we didn't have the internet really kicking off until a bit later down the line. Certainly no social media. So I would do a show, go home, and then go to a dance class. And I didn't think about the show ever again. I just done it. And I didn't worry if I was good, bad.
Amazing.
I just did it. I didn't give a toss afterwards.
Yeah.
And I didn't start considering any of that probably until, probably when I started doing adult TV, like Top of the Pops and stuff. But then I don't think I got too much shit then. I remember when I started Radio 1, that's when it really kicked in. You're on a really open forum in terms of the feedback, because you've got text coming in the whole time. And all of those male columnists were awful back in that era.
Yeah.
Like I remember all of them verbatim, the bad ones, because you do. Like you read them in the paper, they stay in your brain. And one guy, who I'm not going to even give the time of day to mention his name, I'd done this TV show with lovely Ben Shepherd, who we are all in love with. And we did this bungee jump thing together. And he said that he wished the bungee rope had snapped. And I died.
I mean...
And you're just a young woman in her early 20s going, am I that awful? Am I that bad at my job? Am I that unlikable? And I think that's when my confidence started to seriously dissolve. Having that, like a grown man. And I think I just thought at that point, I'm not a proper adult. These are proper adults who know. And I thought I was in the wrong, that I was doing a bad job. I didn't for a minute think he's wrong. I felt angry, but I think the big takeaway for me when I read those things was, there's something wrong with me. I am awful and I'm shit and I'm bad at my job. Oh, without a doubt. And then having that sort of compounded with social media down the line and people just saying whatever they want, whenever they want, I sometimes think, how did I even carry on doing that job every day? I don't know. And people do far harder jobs. I'm not saying people who are doing actually important work in the medical field or science, whatever.
But I don't think they have that constant critique.
Horrible.
Yeah.
It was horrible. So I don't put myself in that environment anymore because I don't want to. I don't want to be a dartboard for everyone to just pin their thoughts to. I really don't. I'm not up for it. I'm not interested in your opinion. I know that I'm good at my job today. I know that I'm good at interviewing people. So say whatever the fuck you want. I will keep on doing it. But I don't want to put myself in an arena where everyone can just say whatever the hell they want.
And one of the things I really, really, really love, I mean, there's so many things I love about you, right? But you did a pivot, an extraordinary career pivot with Happy. Originally it was with the book and then Happy Place. It was such a brave and bold thing to do. Talk me through that process.
It didn't feel brave at all, if I'm honest. I felt, with the book, I just thought, I guess I could write an honest book because I'd never been honest before that.
Yeah, we didn't really know you.
No, but were any of us given the space to be ourselves? No. We would do a TV show, there'd be an auto cue and we would read it. And then we would, do a press interview and be as guarded as humanly possible.
Yeah, isn't that
I never
sad?
said anything because I was so scared that something was going to be misconstrued or whatever, or taken out of context. So I thought, I've got nothing to lose at this point. I wasn't really coping that well with the jobs I was doing. I could write a sort of fluffy book about happiness, but actually why not write about the fact that I've just come off antidepressants or wherever I was at that point? I thought, I've got nothing to lose. And I assumed it would go a bit under the radar. And luckily, that book really connected with people.
Yes.
And it was received well in terms of people saying, I felt like that too. And that was, unexpected. I didn't think that would happen.
Did you literally get stopped in the street?
Oh, yeah. It was quite instant after that book that the conversation changed from, I loved your top on that show to, shit, I've been there. And that was extraordinary. I'd never had that conversation before with strangers, ever. So I definitely felt a teeny tiny glimmer of something new, like, oh, maybe I can just be me. It wasn't a glimmer of, and there's going to be this whole other happy place universe. God, no. I just thought, oh, that feels kind of different. The whole thing was a big, happy accident. I didn't feel like I was doing anything out of the ordinary or brave or different. I just, then the podcast came about. So I thought, right, I don't really want to do radio anymore. And there's no telly work. No one's ringing me. I'm not getting offered anything at all. I'm just sat there feeling
What
really
happened
insecure. You're not flavour of the month anymore.
What did that feel like?
Awful. Because I'm the sort of person that, again, I turned it on myself. Like, I would call people that I work with and say, am I really bad at this or really weird and no one's telling me? Because I just want you to tell me. Just tell me so I know. And then I'll call it quits. I will happily walk away from it and I'll do something else. Why aren't I being asked to do telly anymore? What is it? I still don't know. But I don't care as much anymore. And there's not that many shows I'd really want to do. But back then I desperately wanted them. I still don't know. I don't know if I was a bit or am a bit too out of the box for it, or a bit too boring, or not good enough. It could be any of those things. I don't know. But what I have done is taken the bits of my skill set that I know I'm confident in, and that is interviewing.
Yeah.
And that's where the podcast came from. I'm just going to sit and talk to people. Those conversations were received well early on. And I think that's what I really started to think, maybe I don't have to sit around waiting for the phone to call anymore. Maybe I don't have to go in to these big TV networks and have these ghastly meetings where as someone says to me, oh, what have you been up to recently? Quite dismissively. And then says to me, like, what are your interests? And I'd be like, oh my God, I've been doing TV at that point for like over 20 years. They don't know what I've been doing and they don't even know what I like. And then I'd go into desperation mode. Oh, well, I've been really busy. And I really like painting. Could that be a thing? And like desperate in these meetings for anyone to believe in me in any way. And then come away feeling gross, like violated. Like, why did I go in and do that? Why did I go away? Why did I go into that meeting and act so desperately in front of this boss that I've never met before, or this TV exec, whoever it is, and they still don't want me to do a TV show? Why am I doing that? So I think after the podcast, I thought, I'm not doing that anymore. Yeah. I am not putting myself through that. I'm going to literally spend every waking second working out how to expand the joy that I'm feeling from doing this podcast. And we're doing it. And we're fucking doing it. And I am so glad. And it hasn't been without extreme hard work and grit and the slow building of an amazing team of people that I would not be able to do any of this without. I cannot explain how much I love the people I work with. They are the fucking best. They're the best. And I couldn't do it without them. So I feel like that's taken me years to get there. Years to get there. And it's taken not just the 6.5 years since the podcast, it's the 20 odd years before that of getting it so wrong and meeting good people and getting it right. But it's all of it that has enabled me to do this bit now.
Let's talk about the sponsors of this podcast. Zoe Membership, a personalised nutrition programme. I always get asked why I look after my body, and the answer, I want to look good naked. Joke, don't worry, that's not it. I do it because I know what my health is worth, and I want to have the best life ever. I mean, every decade has looked very different from the last, but with age comes wisdom. Enough to recognise that the more I invest in my body, the more it pays me back. And I did Zoe's at-home test and learned about the good and the bad microbes in my gut. And then Zoe gave me specific food scores so I could see which foods my body responds to best. And it's science-led. In randomised controlled trials, Zoe members who participated in the study saw positive changes to their gut microbiome and energy levels. If you'd like to join me and over 100,000 Zoe members, head over to zoe.com and use Begin10 for 10% off. Oh, and by the way, as you clearly like podcasts, you should go and check out their new show, Zoe Science and Nutrition. It's so good. I am a massive fan. I love how they do all of this research and they give it all away for free. I've got a little challenge for you. Think of one creative project you've always wanted to start. Okay, now let me tell you how you can bring that idea to life with our sponsor, Adobe Express. So it's a really quick and easy create anything app by Adobe. So this tool's designed to give you the confidence to turn those dreams, your dreams, into reality. I've even tried it myself. We've used it to brand this show, so I can actually genuinely say that it makes creating gorgeous graphics and social posts and professional presentations just so straightforward. With smart templates, I can get things done like in a few clicks. And there's an AI feature which is like having a little creative genie with you. So whatever you're dreaming about, honestly, it's never too late to begin. So I dare you, sign up for Adobe Express for free and take that first step. The most transformative chapter of your life is waiting for you.
Are you grateful for the tough times?
I mean, yes, in a way, but I often feel frustrated when I hear people go, I've got no regrets and I wouldn't be who I am today without the shit bit. Because there's a bit of me that would love to have gone through some of the stuff. I would love to be without it.
I guess that in a way that the consequences of what you've gone through, some of it you are a long way down the road, but some of it you're still dealing with.
Oh, yeah.
And there might come a point, maybe when you're my age and you go, wow, I'm so far away from that.
I think so.
You know what I mean?
I hope
that
so.
This journey, it feels so fruitful to me for you, this journey, watching you go on it.
It is.
And kind of getting to know you a bit at a really difficult time, around quite a difficult time in your life, and watching you do this pivot and how, I mean, your interviewing technique is so good.
Coming from you, I could literally die happy now.
Listening to you now is a joy. I'm like, oh, wow, like this is so good. Because I see it from your side really more. I'm not just listening to the person you're interviewing. I'm listening to your questions. But I'm in awe of you.
Well, it goes two ways.
I feel like I'm... Sorry. I cry a lot. But I feel... Sorry. I feel like I'm really proud of you. Sorry. I've seen you, you know, I've heard you, I've spoken to you sometimes, but I didn't really know, you know, how. When you said about your friends saying you said the same thing, I thought, wow, that's dark, you know. Like, we're kind of like the best friends that never happened. Like, we're both busy, we're slightly different generations. I had kids at a different time. We live in different places, but I have a love for you that I can't even begin to express, and to see how you handle your life and what you go through, because it's not about what you own or the job that you do or anything like that. It's about the feelings that you've endured, the problems that you've had,
Yeah.
the way that you've dealt with it and continue to deal with it.
Yeah.
So of course it's not going to be easy as or as simple as I'm grateful for what happened to me. But I was an addict. I am grateful for that.
Yeah.
But that was 35 years ago.
Yeah.
I can say that now.
Yeah.
I couldn't say that 20 years ago. So that's what I love about life. Like, you say you feel good.
I do.
Better
I do feel
than
good.
you did.
I feel good most of the time.
Yeah.
And I really like knowing myself. I think I didn't know myself back then at all. I didn't know, and I still don't truly know, but
Still learning.
I'm still learning. Like, I didn't know my capabilities. I didn't know that it was all right to fuck up. I didn't know that. I thought you had to be perfect all the time.
How hard is it for you to fuck up? It's really hard.
Really hard.
Yeah.
Really, really hard. And not only is it hard for me to fuck up, but it's hard for me to accept when things haven't gone the way that I wanted. More specifically in work, I'm probably more forgiving in my life. I think I've got a good understanding, being in a blended family, that things are really complicated.
Yeah.
And they're great and they're beautiful and they're gorgeous and overwhelmingly beautiful, but also really complicated. So I've got much more leeway when things go wrong in my personal life. But in my work life, when things don't go the way I want them to, I believe it's because there's something wrong with me, or I'm not good enough, or I've not worked hard enough, or I've been deluded. That's one of my big fears. I've been foolish to believe something could be a success, and it hasn't ended up being that way. So I still give myself a hard time, and I still don't like things going wrong. But what I think I've learned, especially from that tricky era, was for whatever reason, and I don't know what it is, I don't give up. I won't. Like, I could so easily not do this job anymore. And, the amount of times I've thought, I'm out, I'm going to go and do something else, or I'm going to move away to another country or just start again. But actually, there's something about learning about humans, having the exceptional privilege of sitting 2 meters away from someone exceptional every week. It doesn't have to be someone necessarily known, but just exceptional people with great stories, that I can't give up on. And creating something that feels really cool. This little community we're building with Happy Place, it feels so cool and special. I didn't even know what it was going to be back then, but something kept me doing it. I don't know what. Maybe also my parents' sort of work ethic and like, you don't give up. I don't know what it is, but I didn't. And I very, very nearly did. So, yeah, it's a funny one.
Who are you now, and where do you want to get to?
I don't know who I am now. I really don't. I'm still figuring it out. I know bits of me. I trust myself a lot more than I used to. I believe that I'm a good egg. And I think I didn't truly believe that back in the day because I listened to so much outside noise. I'm a good egg who tries her best, who gets it wrong sometimes.
Doesn't give up.
But doesn't give up. And I know that I'm curious constantly. I know that I love to feel excited. So I'm constantly seeking what that next thing is. I don't like a plateau. Like, what's the next thing? I want to feel excited. I love that. I love being alive. I feel like it's such a privilege to have a different day to wake up to and to see what happens. I'm deeply interested in life and all of its complexities. But I think I'd like to peel back more layers to feel even more comfy in my own skin, Comfortable in saying no. That's still a problem.
Saying no is so good. I remember when I first got clean and they offer you a tea commitment if you're new, do you want to make the tea every week? And every meeting that I went to which was every day, at some point they'd offer me the tea commitment. Everybody'd look at me, I'd say yes, but I ended up with 7 tea commitments and I was in floods of tears. It was too much responsibility.
Yeah.
I just couldn't do it. My sponsor said, you've got to go and give some up. So I gave some up and somebody said, so you don't want to do it anymore? And I was like, no. And then somebody went, well done.
Revelation.
And I was like, what? Well done for saying no. What, you don't hate me?
Yep.
No, we're so proud of you. That was hard. I was like, what? And then I went on a no spree. I was like, this feels fucking great.
Yeah, I need to go on a no spree. I still find that one really
What you need is you
hard.
need to have me or a friend or someone near you when you say a no and we go,
fucking done.
good girl. You know what I mean?
When Brené Brown said something like, well, we're all we're obsessed. She said something about when you stop being a people pleaser, the one thing you have to get used to is, I know there's the other side you've just expressed, but you're going to piss people off. There will be people that don't get it because of their own shit.
Yes.
And and also they're very used to you saying yes all the time.
Yes.
So when you start putting new boundaries down, there are going to be people that go, but you always do what I want you to do, or you've always done that thing, or whatever. So I definitely struggle with that one still. I am not great at saying no. I've got better, but I want to learn. I want to go on a no spree. You've inspired me. That's a good catchphrase for me to write somewhere. But I think
you're willing.
I'm willing, and the older I get, the more layers I'm peeling back, the more I'm realising that it's just okay to be me. And sometimes that means saying something that might not please the other person, or saying no. Or also I want to get, and I don't know if this is even possible with my personality trait, want to get better at resting. I don't know how to do it.
I'm not very good at that.
I'm so bad.
Yeah.
And I actually don't like it.
I don't really either.
Do you not either? Phew. I think about work all the time because I love it. How lucky.
I'm sure we're not right. I don't think we're supposed to do that.
I know. We're meant to be resting more, but I don't know how. I love, right,
but when I rest, I come up with brilliant ideas.
Brilliant ideas.
Yeah.
I am so bad, right? So after I had a few good friends over on my birthday in the garden, we had lunch because I don't like doing things at nighttime. So we had this lovely, lovely lunch and it was so joyful, every bit of it gorgeous. When they left, I am never happier than when my house is a shithole and I have to clean the whole thing up.
Yeah. Therapeutic.
I am like, and Jessie starts helping out. No, go for a walk. I cannot wait to do and I'm like a whirling dervish, just going around the kitchen, around the garden, picking up paper plates and cleaning and dishwashering. I love it. I need to be busy. I need to be doing things constantly. I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
Well, I think for both of us, it's probably not a good thing because we're escaping something.
We're on the run.
We're on the run. It's like, if I sit down, I'll have to think, and then I don't want to think about the things.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure we're both escaping something.
We're on the run. We're Thelma and Louise.
But yeah, I like the fact that you talk about having therapy every week. I've had therapy at times for kind of years at a time. I mean, obviously recovery's, group therapy of a sort.
Yeah.
Did that for years and years. And it helps me. So how does it help you? And do you feel you've still got things to talk about after a year?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've not been in consistent therapy. I've sort of dipped in and out of it, done these extreme bits of different therapies. I've tried all sorts of things. I'm really open to trying new things still. I'll always try a new technique. It's very much kind of how the Happy Place Festival was born, that there's a place where there's all these things that you can try and see, because there's not one thing, it's not one size fits all. I think you've got to find the thing that works for you.
EMDR the most effective for you?
It probably was in terms of panic, but I think in terms of just feeling happy in my own skin and liking myself, just finding a very good therapist is the one. So I'm actually working with a therapist now that I've only probably been with for about 6 months, but we're on a really good roll.
Great.
And something's shifting and it feels good. So yeah, I feel very grateful. But I have had like a whole year off. And I've just tried all sorts of things, and I always give things a go. And I also know the stuff that I can implement at home for free, like walking, big one.
Walking
Walking on my own,
right?
heaven, love it. Dipping in and out of meditation. I'm always very honest about the fact that I'm not a daily meditator.
I so want to be, though.
Yeah, it's because we're not good at rest, so we're also not good at
Yes.
that. It's hard, but
It's really hard.
I did last night, and I felt I benefited so greatly from it.
Does it help you sleep?
Helps me sleep, helps everything. Yoga, definitely. I think that's quite meditative in its own way. Eating well is a big one for me.
I just wanted to give you a bit of a heads up that me and Fearne do a bit of a deep dive into eating disorders. And if that sounds like something that might be difficult for you, we've got timestamps and you can just skip past those bits.
I had a bad past with food, so I think that's a big one.
I want to touch on that.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Because, again, it's something that so many people tackle. And I read somewhere when you talk about it, you say, look, I'm over it, but I still deal with the consequences, or I still kind of have to pull myself up a few times. Can you talk me through that? Because I think sometimes people don't really understand that. They think when you're over it, you're over it.
Well, exactly. And it's like addiction. I think it's very similar that you live alongside something when you're in recovery from anything. And I had this sort of on-off period for about 10 years. It wasn't consistently 10 years. It was very extreme at the start of that 10 years and then inconsistent bulimia. And I felt extremely uncomfortable talking about it, actually, until I guess the catalyst for me was reading Bryony Gordon's books, because she's very open about it. We love Bryony. And then also talking to Elizabeth Day, who's one of my besties, on her podcast. That was the first time I'd publicly talked about it. And it sort of took the sort of spike out of the topic for me, just talking about it in a very everyday way. And now I feel really comfortable talking about
It's funny, isn't it?
Very comfortable. And a distance that is long enough away for me to do so. But I had, a very dysfunctional relationship with food and fueling my body. And I didn't even binge massively. Sometimes I would a little bit. It's such a strange, visceral feeling, the release that I would get from it. And it was secret. And I needed something at that point for me, because everything was everybody else's.
Yes.
It was so public and up for grabs that this was a secret thing. And it gave me such a release of tension. And then it was just something after a while that I would fall into if I was stressed. So it wasn't every day. It was every day at the start. It was multiple times a day. But then in my later 20s, it was a sort of reaction to stress. It was the only way I knew. So in my late 20s, I did this deep dive into really overcoming a bit of a phobia I had about food. And I cooked and I cooked and I cooked and I touched the food and I smelled the food and I healed myself. But I didn't actually have any counselling for bulimia.
I'm amazed by that.
I didn't go into a rehab thing. I just deep dived into food. And I think it was really meeting my husband and my stepchildren where I was like, oh, Christ, I'm like in charge of 2 kids here and I'm in charge of what they're eating. I need to sort my shit out. and I wanted to have a baby. So my therapy was going for the extreme of cooking as much as I could all day, every day. And it worked. And I have been healthily eating, and, you know, I've certainly had dips, which I think is important to be honest about, where I've found it confusing or situations confronting, or I've still been scared of certain situations. But I feel physically the best I've ever felt in terms of how I'm feeding my body, exercising my body, and the relationship I have with it. So for people that are going through it, you absolutely can get out of that habit, because it is a horrible habit, a horrible cycle to be in. And it was ruling my life at one point. It was all day, every day. You can absolutely overcome it. And it feels impossible when you're in it. You think, there is no way. There is no way.
So was it your sort of stepkids that made you think, right, I've got to do something about it?
Definitely a big part of it.
You need a trigger to help you go, right,
I don't think everyone does, but it was a wake-up call to me. Because, you know, I wasn't looking to meet anyone at that point in my life, but I happened to meet someone with kids. And it shifted a lot of things in my life. And I've been broody for years since I was a teenager. I was like, I want to have a baby. And then I met the person that I thought, I could have a baby with this person. And I thought, I need to get my body in a place where I can do it. And I wasn't actively bulimic all the time at that point, but it was an occasional thing that I would lean on when I felt stressed. And I just thought, this has got to go. Yeah. And also I was, you know, going out drinking loads. I luckily had never had a problem with alcohol. It's never really interested me. I would, like most people in their 20s, go out and get pissed watching a band or something. But even that shifted, like, I don't really want to do that anymore. I'm over that. I just want to have cozy nights in and have family time. So it shifted a hell of a lot for me, and I'm very grateful for that. And I've stayed happily cozy at home ever since.
Tell me about becoming a mum. I mean, if it's something, you know, I guess you had like a soft launch with your stepchildren.
Yeah.
But then you had your two, Rex and Honey. What's that meant to you?
Oh my God. The whole thing has just been, you know, I've got to start with my stepkids because I have the most beautiful relationship with them. I love the bones of them. And they've brought me so much joy and so much happiness. And I still think there's a long way to go when we talk about blended families and how amazing it can be. Yes, it's complicated. Yes, it requires an insane amount of communication and compromise and everything that we all go through. But the joy they're adults now, have brought me is insane. And now they're at such a fun age. Like, we have such a laugh. And I've known Lola, my stepdaughter's 19 now. When I met her, she was 5.
Wow.
She was a teeny tiny kid.
It's amazing.
So I've seen her go through all of this, you know, go through puberty and then become a woman. And now we're out having a laugh together at dinner. And what a joy. It's been a blessing to have this inexplicable relationship with someone. It's not the same as having my own kids. It has a different tone to it, a different flavour. But it's so enjoyable and so beautiful. And I certainly wouldn't be who I am today without my stepkids. There's no way. They've helped inform who I am as a person. They fast-tracked me to being a responsible adult. They've made me accountable for my reactions to things. They're amazing. And I love them. I feel so lucky they're in my life. And then having my own kids, I mean, how do you even describe the feeling of bringing life into the world, what a privilege it is? How do you describe how insanely difficult it is? How challenging it can be, how confronting it is, how you have to learn so much overnight and continue to forever. Like, you think there's a bit where you just stop learning and it's all like, we're in the rhythm of it now, we're just parents. It's every bloody day. It's exhausting, but absolutely life affirming. And I don't have the words. Like, I don't have the words to sum it up. It's all too big and all too overwhelming. And I just bloody love them so much.
The very bones of them. I
It's
know.
that I mean, I remember once, and I can't think who said it. I feel like it was weirdly John Legend's wife, but she might have then taken the quote from someone else. That
Right.
the feeling of having kids is like having your heart beating outside of your chest all day, every day. It's kind of terrifying, and you don't feel like there's enough protection around you and them, and everything's a bit scary, but it's so intense and raw. I think it's really hard to put your finger on what it is and what it means to be a parent and a step parent. They're the most important relationships in my life, without a doubt.
I mean, obviously you've been on this journey in yourself, and at the same time as that, you have interviewed some of the greatest thinkers, movers, shakers, philosophers, just people with amazing stories. Over the last 6 years, that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Can you give me any tools that you think are things that you've gone, oh my God, pickaxe and forehead, this tool is amazing, it's going to change my life?
Yeah.
And, who was it from?
I think there have been quite a few. The ones that instantly spring to mind would be when we had Deepak Chopra on the podcast. We talked a lot about panic and panic attacks. And one thing he said that I kind of knew, but I needed confirming in the context of panic, was whatever you resist persists. So in the thick of a panic attack, where you're going, I don't want this. Why is this happening? I'm a freak. I need this to go away now. What breathing technique can I do? Oh my God, that didn't work. It's now even worse. The best thing you can do is to surrender to it and go, I'm having a panic attack and it's all right. It's not going to be forever. It might be undulating. It might go on for longer than I want. But actually that level of not resisting it has helped me hugely. And it's saved a lot of time. So I'm glad of that one.
Did you, on that panic attack, did you see the Australian, was it an Australian guy who was having a panic attack while delivering the weather forecast on Australian television?
Oh, I need to see this.
He talked about it previously. So it was a known thing on the show. And I think he'd sat at the desk and talked about his panic attacks, but he actually had one while he was doing the weather, and he had to say, I'm just going to hand it back over to you because I'm just having a panic attack right now and I need to go and deal with that. It was so brilliant.
How cool that he did that.
It was so brilliant. And I feel like people like you, people like Deepak Chopra explaining what to do, has made it part of the conversation. It's incredible that.
It's so good because so many people are having them all day, every day.
Yeah.
And the thing that...
And possibly not even realising that that's what it is,
Yeah, and I think the thing that keeps them going is the fact that you feel like no one else is having them and you're the only person and you can't cope and everyone else is coping. So actually, if we all just go, oh, I'm having them too, or I used to have them, whatever it is, takes the heat out of it a little bit, I think. Yeah, that's amazing. I need to see that clip.
I'll find it and send it to
I
you.
need to see that.
So who else?
I really loved when we had Elizabeth Gilbert on, who I am in love with. I desperately need to interview her again. Like once wasn't enough.
That's amazing, isn't it?
It just wasn't enough. Like an hour was not long enough. And she's also kind of gone through a whole metamorphosis since I interviewed her. So I need to meet her again and talk about that. But she was talking about when her girlfriend was gravely ill and she knew she didn't have long and it was all really stressful and it was all really heartbreaking. She was sat one time by her bed and, like all of us, had a sort of bulging inbox and a text inbox full of messages and WhatsApps, whatever, and just went, delete, like none of this matters. None of this shit matters because this matters.
Yes.
And although we might not be able to actively do that, that helps in those times where I'm trying to cook the kids' tea. I know I've got about 10 emails that I probably should have replied to already. And I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed. And this feeling in my chest here is really fizzing. And oh my God, it's just like, it doesn't actually matter. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. If I get back to them in a week, whatever. So that was sort of life-changing in a way that is very relatable in sort of everyday life.
Have you got plans for more, like more happy place?
Yeah.
Tell me.
I've got all the plans. Like, I can't sleep at night because of that a lot of the time. I'm thinking and I'm brainstorming. And also, I'm constantly, sadly reminded of how many people are having a shit time.
Yes.
And suffering and don't have access to the resources they need or the therapy they need or whatever. And I certainly can't fix anywhere near any of it, but it's constantly motivating that we need more positive spaces, places for people to be able to have decent conversation, be able to truly express how they're feeling, be able to learn from great minds, people that we're trying to bring to the table at the festival and on the podcast and in our little YouTube series that we're doing. But I'm always thinking up new ways that we could do that. And, you know, part of it is because I want to help. But I want to be brutally honest that part of it is because I'm deeply ambitious, because I am excited to do this work, because I love it. And also because, like, my nans didn't have the opportunity to really have a job. You know, they were at home. And I feel like a bit of a duty in my female lineage to really maximise the opportunities that I've got and work to see get anywhere near my full potential. We'll try and understand what it is. I think we've all got way more potential than we believe. I'm not any different to anyone else. I think it's just about giving things a try.
I also feel like, you know, you started in a business that you loved, which then fucking crucified you.
Yep.
And took you down.
Yep.
And then, but you still didn't give up. This is the other thing that, you know, you're not lucky. You made your own luck. You created space. You took risks. You worked hard. And you're constantly learning about yourself.
Yes.
And you love yourself, warts and all.
Yeah, I'm getting there with that one. Getting there with that one. But I think
Look at you.
It's enabled me to try something new, because I think that's where the self-respect has come in.
Yeah.
That I've created something where I don't feel ghastly. Whereas back in the day, I didn't have enough self-respect. So I was being treated badly at work a lot of the time. And I was running back for more, like you do to an awful ex-boyfriend.
Yes.
You know that they're not going to call. You know that they're going to be a bit
mad,
dismissive.
that, isn't it?
And you keep going back. Please like me.
Oh,
but
my
what if
God.
I'm like this? Maybe you'll like me now. Do you like me now? Like I'm a different iteration of myself. Could you love me now? And we've all done it in relationships.
You know,
I was
what
doing
I really
it at
want
work.
to do is like go back and hug that little Fearne.
Yeah, me too. But now, no.
No. Never again.
No.
No.
I can't do it. I don't want to do it. And if I find myself being pulled back there, occasionally I might get offered a TV thing and my ego goes, oh, maybe they like me now. Oh my God, they like me. Maybe I'm not this weird freak. And I'm like, halt.
I think, Fearne, I was just going to say, if there's something that if someone was watching, say they were kind of 30s, 40s, unhappy with where they're at and wanting to look at kind of doing something different, a bit like you did when you had that pivot. Is there anything from what you've said today that you think might help, or any words of advice?
I think especially for women, like, just try it. I think we've all got such imposter syndrome that we can't.
And fear. It feels unsafe.
It feels unsafe, and it is a bit, because you don't know. There is risk. You have to take a risk. If you're unhappy, I still believe it's worth taking a risk, because you're better off than being stagnant and feeling shit.
But you're paying a price either way, right?
You really are. So I think it's worth trying, that there's definitely going to be massive road bumps and failure and getting things wrong, and that's okay. And I'm saying that to myself as well, that going wrong is fine, and that it's the most important thing I've learned, whether it's about changing lanes or just feeling a bit better, is that we can do all the things, whether it's yoga, meditation, smothering ourselves in rose quartz, drinking green juice, whatever the fuck it is, hanging wind chimes up. We can do all the things. But unless we are willing to learn to like ourselves, cultivate a bit of self-compassion, forgive ourselves, hopefully end up liking ourselves, it won't touch sides. None of it will touch sides. Because constantly people go to me, I tried wellness or whatever, just doesn't work for me, it's shit. And it's like, if we're doing all the things but we don't like ourselves, it will not do anything.
Because you're still there.
You still feel like shit.
You know, it's a bit like in an anonymous fellowship when somebody moves country and they go, I still feel terrible. I'm in this amazing country, but it's because you're still there.
You're still there.
Unless you do the work on yourself.
You and your problems have followed you.
Yeah, you're going to be wherever you are. You've got to change something inside.
You just got to like yourself.
Yeah.
That is, I think, the key to so much of our...
And it's hard sometimes.
Dis-ease in our bodies and minds is we don't like ourselves. And it's really hard. And I'm not sat here saying that I've nailed it at all, but I'm absolutely cognizant of where I need to get to in terms of liking myself.
You're on that journey.
I'm on the journey. I'm on the journey.
Well, I love you.
I love you. So
Aren't we lucky?
so
I'm so pleased you're in my life.
I'm so pleased you're in mine.
Thank you, Fearne Cotton.
Thank you, Davina.
I mean, obviously, I'm invested in Fearne, my heart and my soul. I feel like she's a very, very special woman with an enormous heart who's been through some incredibly traumatic times, picked herself back up, dusted herself back off, tried to help her heal herself, looked around for different ways to do that, and is now sharing such wisdom with the world to try and help other people get the support and healing that she did on her journey. What I love about Fearne is she's still on a journey, and I can't wait to maybe do this interview again in 5 years and see where she's at then. I've just got a feeling that, yeah, she's just on a very good journey and she's going to be in an amazing place. But I feel very warm and gooey, and I really love that woman. I bet you do too, right? We're taking a quick break to talk about today's sponsor, Fiverr. Have you experienced the immediate panic when you're asked to create something on the computer, but you have absolutely no idea how to do it? For me, it's social media. But I have realised that I can rely on Fiverr. It's an online marketplace. It's got talented freelancers who specialise in different areas, from social media and graphic design to marketing, website building, and coding. But with Fiverr, I can leave it to the experts and focus on the stuff I do best. So if you want to give Fiverr a try, and I think you should, search fiverr.com or click the link in the description and use the code Davina at the checkout for 10% off your first order. That's Fiverr.com. And don't forget the second R.